truck driver, and this happened to me on the Lima-Tarapoto highway. I've always said that real fear isn't in the movies, it's on the road, especially when you're driving at night, loaded, tired, on curves, where one mistake sends you over the edge. My name is Julian. I'm 45 years old, and I've been driving trucks since I was young. I've done almost every route there is, but there's one that always leaves something strange in my body. The Lima to Tarapoto run. What I'm about to tell you happened on that route. And even though a lot of people will say it was exhaustion, that it was just my mind, I know what I saw. And I can tell you that since that night, I don't drive the same way when the fog comes in. It was rainy season in the jungle. I got a call to haul cargo from Lima to Tarapoto, merchandise for several shops, nothing unusual. I left in the afternoon, as always, to cover most of the road, while there was still daylight. My truck I knew by heart, old but solid, with that engine sound that rides with you like background music. The first part of the trip was normal. Traffic leaving Lima, toll booths, buses, minivans cutting in where they shouldn't. Nothing new. I was alone, but that never bothered me. I've always preferred driving in peace with my music over riding with someone who falls asleep halfway through. My plan was to get to a certain point, rest for a while, then keep going. What I didn't know was that night I wasn't going to rest the way I wanted. Something was going to happen to me that still gives me goosebumps when I think about it. The higher you go into the mountains, the more everything changes. The Lima heat fades. The air gets colder. Fog starts appearing in patches. Those of us who drive that route know there are curves you can't get comfortable on. You ease off the speed, lights fully on, radio low so you can hear the engine. I was focused, but fine. I had my coffee, some egg rolls I'd bought at a rest stop, and I kept going. Along the roadside, the crosses. That never changes. White crosses, some with old flowers, some with just stones. Each one is an accident, a story that ended badly. You don't want to stare, but the road makes you look. There they are, reminding you that one mistake, and you end up the same way. Around midnight, the fog got heavier, the kind that doesn't just hang in front of you. It seems to rise from below, from the ground itself. I slowed down even more. Barely any cars. An occasional bus passing in the other direction. And then, that feeling. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but there are moments when everything seems calm, and yet something tells you it isn't right. Like someone is watching you from somewhere. I tried to shake it off. Focus on a road, I told myself. It was on a long straight stretch, foggy but not completely closed in, that I saw her. At first I thought it was a post, a shadow, but as I got closer I realized it was a person, a woman, standing at the side of the highway, alone, in the middle of the night. She was about half a meter from the asphalt, looking straight ahead, not at me. She was wearing a long, light-colored dress. Black hair, loose, falling over her shoulders. No bag, nothing in her hands. I braked slightly. Instinct. You think, maybe she needs help. Maybe her car broke down, something. I gave a soft tap of the horn so she'd turn around. She didn't move. As I got closer, the truck's headlights lit her up better. And that's when I felt something cold and wrong move through my back. I couldn't see her face, not because it was covered. It was like The light wouldn't catch her features right, like there was always a shadow there. I passed slowly alongside her. I wanted to turn my head to look at her better, but in that moment, something inside me said, "Don't look." I didn't look. I kept going straight. When I'd left her behind, I couldn't help it. I checked the rearview mirror. She was still there, standing in the same spot, not moving. Her dress seemed to float slightly in the fog. The rear lights caught her for a second. And I swear, just for an instant, it seemed like she was looking directly at me. I swallowed hard. Must be someone from a village nearby, I told myself. Some devoted woman, some eccentric, who knows? I didn't want to think about it anymore. But from that moment on, I didn't feel alone in the cab. After that straight stretch come curves, more curves, all dark, just your headlights and the occasional vehicle coming the other way. I turned on the radio to distract myself, found an oldie station, ballads, calm stuff. Out of nowhere, the radio started crackling. Interference, like when you pass through an area with no signal. But this was different. Through the static, I heard something. At first, I thought it was part of the song. It wasn't. It was like a very low voice speaking over the music. I turned up the volume. The music got worse, but the voice stayed there, as if it didn't depend on the signal at all. I couldn't understand what it was saying. Too fast, like overlapping whispers. I turned the volume back down, uncomfortable. After a while, the music returned to normal. Radio must be going, I thought. But then it happened again. Same pattern. Normal music. Interference. A strange voice. Like a woman's voice. Buried in the static. This time I heard one word clearly. Stop. It didn't sound like a suggestion. It sounded like a command. My skin stood on end. I turned the radio off completely. Driving in silence, just the engine and a fog in front of you, has its own weight. There's a stretch of that route where there's nothing. No towns, no checkpoints, no gas stations. Just mountain, drop-off, curves, and more curves. I had a clear sense of the time. I knew what hour it was, how far I was from the next town, the next junction. But that night, there was a stretch that felt wrong. I looked at the dashboard clock, 2:15 in the morning. I went through a curve, another, a straight, more curves. The fog was so dense at points, I had to drop to 30 or 40 kilometers an hour. I could feel the truck moving forward, but the landscape wasn't changing. Same rock walls on one side, same drop on the other, the crosses at intervals. At some point I thought, I should have reached that junction by now. I looked at the clock, 2:17 in the morning. 2 minutes had passed. I kept driving, what felt like another half hour. I looked again, 2:19. I didn't like that at all. It made no sense. Either my clock was broken or something was wrong. I pulled out my phone on a straighter section. Same time as the dashboard. I know this might sound crazy, but I felt like I'd been placed inside a space where you move forward, but time doesn't. My head started filling with questions. My hands were sweating. It was in the middle of that feeling, like I'll never get out of here, that I saw her again. On one of the curves, the fog opened slightly, just enough to see further ahead. To the right of the road, pressed close to the edge, the same figure as before, Same light-colored dress, same black hair, same way of standing looking at the road. It couldn't be someone else. It was her. I went cold inside. There were no crosses nearby, no village entrance, nothing. It was a high section of road, a place where very few people would stop for anything. I passed alongside her again. This time, I couldn't control it. I glanced sideways at her. The face was still wrong, blurred. Not because of the fog. It was like her face didn't want to come into focus. That was what scared me most. I gripped the wheel tighter and kept going. A few seconds later, something happened in the cab. I heard a sound like plastic shifting, something moving in the passenger seat. I caught a smell. Damp earth, not from rain, from turned soil. I glanced sideways at the passenger seat. At first, I saw nothing, just my bag where I keep my things. But then the fog outside caught a distant light differently. A faraway pole sent just a sliver through the window. And I saw her. Someone was sitting in the passenger seat. It was her. The woman in the light dress, looking straight ahead, not at me. Hands folded on her lap, the bottom of the dress stained, like mud. Her face was still blurred, but the eyes I could see, dark, very wide open. I don't know how I kept driving. My whole body was trembling. "Miss," I managed, "where did you come from?" She didn't answer. She just sat there, as if she had gotten on at a normal stop. Stopping was not an option. I was on a curve in dense fog at 2 a.m, so I kept going. I sat there for several minutes, saying nothing, just staring forward, heart pounding. The woman, or whatever it was, wasn't speaking either. Then, out of nowhere, she broke the silence. Her voice was very low but clear inside the cab. "Don't stop." I swallowed. "No, I wasn't planning to," I said, nervous. "Not here," she added. "Further ahead." I didn't know what to say. All I wanted was to reach the next town, see lights, people, anything. I tried doing what I do with any occasional passenger when someone gets on. Sometimes a colleague or someone from the route, you know. Talk about normal things. "Are you heading to Tarapoto?" I asked, almost by reflex. Silence. "I've got cargo, but if we're going the same way, I can drop you where you need." She said nothing, didn't look at me. Then she turned her head slightly, not toward me, toward her window. "It's coming," she murmured. "What's coming?" I asked. She didn't answer. The radio, which was off, turned itself on with a burst of static. A presenter's voice barely came through, saying something about road accidents. Then it cut out. The smell of earth got stronger. Further along, on a relatively straight section, I saw lights in the distance. They looked like an oncoming vehicle, but they didn't move the way a car moves. Sometimes they grew larger, sometimes smaller. Even though I was driving at a steady speed, the distances made no sense. Then the lights disappeared, and in an instant they were off to the side of the road, closer to the drop, like candles. Many lit candles lined up in what looked like a small space at the edge of the road. There were no houses there, nothing as far as I knew that stretch. "There," she said, the first time she'd pointed at anything. Her finger aimed directly at those lights. "That's where it happened," she added. My throat went dry. What happened?" "Don't stop," she repeated. As we passed alongside that place, I could make out something more. Shadows around the candles. Not bodies, not clear figures, just shadows. As if people were standing there, but without defined shapes. I fixed my eyes on the road. When I tried to look again out of the corner of my eye, the candles were gone. Just darkness. On that road, there's a particular cross, enormous, bigger than the rest. Those of us who drive it recognize it because it marks a place where several people have died. As I approached, the fog pulled back slightly, like someone had drawn a curtain. The cross was lit by a small light fixed to the ground, connected to a cable coming from somewhere. Cement. Tall. Several names on metal plaques. As I passed it, the woman whispered, "Not all of them left." I didn't want to ask anything more. At that moment, something hit the back of the truck. A hard, dry blow. Like something large had slammed into the rear door. The whole truck shuddered. I instinctively checked the mirror. For just 1 second, I saw something I shouldn't have seen. A dark mass clinging to the back, as if someone was gripping the bumper, dragging behind. Then the fog swallowed it. I snapped my eyes back to the road, gripping the wheel. "Don't look back," the woman said. At some point, as if responding to something, the fog began to thin. The curves were visible further ahead, the rocks, the crosses. The air felt less heavy. I looked at the clock, 3:40 in the morning. Compared to when all of this started, the time still didn't add up. But up ahead I could see the entrance to a small village, the one where I usually stop for coffee or something hot. Lights, small houses, poles, a little gas station. I let out some of the air I didn't know I'd been holding. "Almost there," I said, more to myself than to her. Then, the way you realize something a moment too late, I turned toward the passenger seat. Empty. Nobody there. No smell of earth. No dress. Nothing. My bag exactly where it had always been. I stayed frozen for a few seconds. "No way," I whispered. I checked the mirror out of reflex. The road behind was dark, but for just a moment I thought I saw a silhouette standing in the middle of the highway far back. Still. I blinked. It was gone. I pulled into the village and parked beside a small roadside restaurant. A couple of other trucks, a bus, some small cars, normal people. The sound of plates and spoons, the smell of hot soup. I got out of the truck with shaking legs. I ordered a strong coffee and an egg roll, sat down at a table and tried to process what I'd just lived through. A little while later, another driver sat down at the table next to me. Older guy, face of someone who'd driven that route his whole life. He looked at me and said, "You look like you just saw the one who stands on the curve." I stared at him. "What?" He laughed without humor. "The thin one, the one in white, the one who sometimes gets into your vehicle if you pay her too much attention." My stomach tightened. "You've seen her too?" The man took a sip of his coffee. "Not me." He paused. "But a friend of mine has. And another colleague. And once a bus almost went over the edge, trying to stop where it shouldn't have stopped." He leaned slightly toward me. "They say there was a bad accident there once. A truck, a car, I don't know. People they never found whole. Buried in a hurry, no wake, nothing." I didn't know if it was true or just road stories, but it fit too well with what had happened to me. "And the candles?" I asked, almost without meaning to. The man raised an eyebrow. You saw the candles, too? I didn't answer. My face said everything. He exhaled slowly. All right, man. Listen, when you pass through that stretch, don't pick anyone up. Don't stop for anything. And if you feel like someone is riding with you, keep driving until you reach the town lights. I nodded in silence. I made it to Tarapoto without any more trouble, unloaded the cargo, and slept a few hours in the company yard. The next day, on the return trip, I asked to go during daylight. I didn't want to do that route at night. When I passed through the area where I'd seen the woman, everything looked normal. Light fog, crosses, curves. At the place where the candles had been, off to the side of the road, I noticed something. A patch of earth that looked slightly different, like it had been disturbed a long time ago. A couple of small crosses lying on the ground, not standing upright. Nobody around. I didn't stop. To this day, whenever someone tells me the road is only scary because of the potholes, the holdups, the drunk drivers, I think about that night